Welcome back. I have here the conclusion of my Days of the Week test. Those of you that have been following along know what I'm talking about, and if you're not, don't worry, I'll explain it. Let's just get right into it. Okay, if you weren't following along, haven't seen the previous video, a few weeks ago I noticed on my chess.com insights page that on certain days of the week, I scored much better in rapid games than on other days of the week, as seen in the chart here. Sundays especially, I won 70-something% of my games, and it looked like Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays I also did better than average, whereas the other 3 days I lost more games than I won. And I had been alternating days between chess.com and Lichess, playing my rapid games. But I decided after seeing this chart that I would just play rapid on chess.com on the days that I was winning a lot, and just play on Lichess on the days that I wasn't winning as much, just to see what would happen. And here's what I found. If you saw my previous video, you've already seen these results. This was the results of my first full week of playing on chess.com on the days that I was expected to win more, and on Lichess the days I was expected to not win as much. And as you can see, all of the days except Friday followed the pattern. Here I've added the winning percentages across the top according to the insights page, just for clarification, and then I've put a C or an L on each day to show which site I was playing on. The little circles show whether I won or lost. So on Sunday and Monday I won as expected. Tuesday and Wednesday I lost as expected, and so on. Except for Friday I won on Lichess, which didn't quite fit the pattern, but that's okay. None of these were 100%. I didn't expect them to fully match up. And let's see what happened on the second week. Now here I have updated the percentages to show the final, the new percentages of winning and losing, or my new winning percentages. And I've updated the little circles to show how that went. As you can see, my second week did not go nearly as well as my first week. On Sunday, I lost on chess.com, so that gave me a 1-1. Perhaps if I continued this test week after week, I would end up with 76%. I don't know. On Monday, I forgot which site to play on and played on Lichess by accident, but I won that game, so it did fit the pattern. Ended up with wins on both Mondays. And then on Tuesday, I won, which wasn't expected. And then on Wednesday, I did lose as expected, so that fit the pattern. On Thursday, I lost, which didn't fit the pattern. Friday, I won again, so I won both Fridays. Didn't fit the pattern. Now, Saturday, you'll notice there's not 2 games, so I didn't go an extra Saturday. What I did was I lost the first game so quickly that I went ahead and played another one and lost that too. So Saturday did not end up fitting the pattern either. And somebody had commented a few days ago, wondering what other things might have affected this other than just the day of the week. Because obviously different people do different things on different days of the week. That might have affected it some, which was my suspicion. But somebody had suggested looking at strengths of players. So I went back and looked to see which games I was rated higher than the opponent, which games I was rated lower than the opponent, and so on. And what I found was that in that first week, I was rated higher than my opponent in almost every game. The only game in the first week that I was rated lower than my opponent, I lost that one. But all the others, I was either rated within 10 points one way or the other, which I would call even, or I was rated higher. So that might explain why I won most of the games in the first week. In the second week, I was rated lower than my opponent in every game but one. And that, again, I was switching back and forth between the sites, and I'm doing the auto-seek, where I just select 10+0 rapid and let the system match me up with somebody. So I don't know why on the first week I was rated higher than my opponent in 6 of the 7 games. And I also don't know why that in the second week that I tried this experiment, I was rated much lower than my opponent in 7 out of the 8 games that I ended up playing. And that made a difference. That turned out to be the biggest determining factor. When I was rated overall, combining the 2 weeks, when I was rated even with or higher than my opponent, I won 6 of 7 games, 6-1. But when I was rated lower than my opponent, I lost 6 and won only 2. So that tells you that there is something very I don't know what the word is, but very accurate about the ratings, at least for me, that I am playing at about my rating strength. That when I play someone who's rated 20 points higher than me, 40, 60, 80 points higher than me, I'm losing most of the time. And when I'm playing somebody that's rated lower than me, I'm winning most of the time. And again, if it was within 10 points, I counted that as even. So another thing I decided to go back and look through is whether I played with the black pieces or the white pieces. And that turned out to not matter as much. Combining the 2 weeks, I went 5-3 as black and 4-3 as white. So I won more games than I lost combining the 2 weeks. And I performed about the same. I lost 3 games as each color and won 4 or 5 games as each color. So another thing, it turned out when I combined the 2 sites, I went 4-4 on chess.com and I went 4-3 on Lichess. So again, about even. So it looked like the thing that affected this the most was the rating strength of the players. And so yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to keep continuing this experiment because it requires extra record keeping, and I want to devote that extra free time to practicing and studying chess. But why not? Let's take a look at those 2 games that I played on Saturday when I lost the first one so quickly that I played another one and lost that too. Now here's a position I reached in the first of those games. After 8 moves, my opponent has just castled. Now here, I have a slight advantage already. So for black, that's pretty good. Having a slight advantage after 8 moves, according to the engine. Almost always in all of these opening lines, if both sides play relatively decent moves, white usually still has the first move advantage by this point. But I'm doing okay. And here I thought, well, now is my chance to take control of the center, because I have 2 pieces, well, my knight and my queen, both pointing at the e5 square, so I should be able to plant a pawn here. My thinking was that if they took, I could take back, and if they took back with the knight, I would take back with the queen. And then I would have gotten rid of their center pawn. I would still have a center pawn here, and I would have a queen in the middle of the board, which I could retract if I needed to. That turns out to be not very good thinking, and I realized it right after I played it. Turns out the best move here for black is to play e6, just to protect that center pawn, which is not under a lot of threat right now, but it does have some pressure on it from this knight. But just go ahead and develop that, and that helps to get this bishop out so I can castle. But I played that, and right after I played it, they snap took, which is their best move by far. And that's when I realized, oh wow, if I take, and they take back, and I take back as I had intended with my queen, they're just going to slide this rook over. And that's going to line their rook up with my queen and my king. And that's a problem. And I didn't realize that I went down +7 at this point. But here the engine says it doesn't really matter whether I take this with my knight or move this knight out of danger someplace to g4 or to e4. But e5, playing e5 with my pawn was not a good move. So what I did here was I got that knight out of the way, and then I realized, yeah, I'm basically lost at this point. And they took that pawn, attacking my queen, and there's not really anything I can do about it. But yeah, once I realized, I just gave up my other center pawn. I just resigned. It was too much at that point. And that player was rated 60, 70 points higher than me. So the other game was a little better on my part. This is the second game that I played on Saturday night. Having lost that other one so quickly, I thought, you know what, I'll just play another one. And I tend to win most of my Saturday night games, so I thought I had a shot. And here, if you can see the evaluation bar on the left, I'm up almost +2, plus 1.95. And my opponent has just played an inaccuracy. But I got confused by this position and didn't quite understand it. The engine is saying that my best move to maintain that +2 is to play bishop to f4. And I'm not sure exactly why. Don't know why that green arrow is there. Oh, that green arrow is saying what they should have played. Okay, I'm supposed to play bishop to f4 here, but I don't know why. And It says alternately I could play queen to c2 or even queen to a4, but I also don't know exactly why those are really good moves. Would maintain a little bit of an advantage. What I decided to do was, right now this pawn isn't protected, I decided to move to play bishop to e4, which protects this pawn this way and with the queen. And I thought, maybe then I could push it forward. Maybe not immediately because I would lose that bishop there, but maybe at some point I could protect that bishop somehow and then push this pawn forward. So I would have a discovered attack on that bishop as well as the pawn hitting that bishop. And that turns out to be a big blunder. And I'm not sure exactly why, other than what the opponent can do in response. I definitely lost my advantage. My opponent played their second best move, which was to line up their rook with here, because again this bishop's undefended, and my idea was to again find a way to protect that bishop and then advance this pawn, but it may not work out as well as planned. So I thought one way to protect that bishop would be to reroute this knight back here to f1, where it would protect this pawn and block the king from any back rank checks, and incidentally it would protect this bishop. And as soon as I moved the knight, I thought I could drop this bishop back to f3, where the pawn would protect it, well, and the queen would protect it too. It would be protected right here, right? And then I would move the knight back here, and that turned out to be a pretty good plan. My opponent didn't play their best move. No, sorry, that's my move, and the computer says that it's not that great. My opponent still has a little bit of advantage. They played their second best move, which was to get their bishop out of the way of the rook, hitting the undefended bishop, and incidentally blocking my pawn move. Well, here again, if you remember, my plan was to drop this bishop back, drop this knight back, and go on about my day. But I did that in the wrong order, and I dropped the knight back first. Obviously that's a blunder because it leaves this bishop unprotected, and my opponent just took it. And so on move 17, I resigned. I don't know how good would it have been right here if I had gone ahead with my plan. The engine says queen to a4 is my best move here. I probably wouldn't have found that because that doesn't attack anything that's undefended at this point. It would protect my bishop from the side. I do see that. But queen to b3 also would have been good, which doesn't protect that bishop. That's weird. And g3. Again, which doesn't... because the bishop's currently protected by the knight. Okay, but how bad would it have been if I had done my plan, which was to drop this back? Okay, it says that's not horrible. My opponent still has an advantage, but it's not a blunder. And then who knows what they would have played at that point. Knight to e5 is listed as their best move. And now it says my best move is to put that bishop back where it was. Wow, my only move that's not a mistake or a blunder. Okay, well, my plan wouldn't have worked because the bishop is now hit by the knight. I was planning on dropping back here, but that would have been a big blunder because of this. Yeah, which I would have to take with my queen. And then... Wait, it says for them to take this now? I know why. I get it, yeah, because if I take back, they have this, and I lose my queen. Okay. Well, but anyway, those are the games that I lost on Saturday night that made Saturday not fit the pattern for the 2 weeks. But anyway, as I said, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to go back to my regularly scheduled programming. But thanks for following along, and thanks, I believe it was Daryl Castle who made the suggestion to check the player strength of my opponents. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.